I am so glad that you guys landed on this video today because Ark Invest is game-changingly exciting and I cannot wait to go through it with you. For anybody who's serious about investing, especially in innovative companies that are literally looking to change the world, I have to introduce you to the guru in this space, Cathie Wood, the CEO and the CFO of Ark Invest. And let me tell you, Cathie and Ark in general are absolutely dominating with their investments, blowing everyone out of the water, especially in these crazy times. And if you don't believe me, then let these results speak for themselves. This here is the S&P 500 index, which has had an impressive 189% growth since its inception in 2010. And here is Ark Invest's performance since its inception in 2014, putting it to shame with a whopping growth of 293%. And that's 4 years during a bull market. So who knows, if they started these ETFs a little bit earlier, maybe the gap would have been even wider. So in today's video, I want to go over the 4 main pillars that I think are the most important to understand about Ark Invest. So the 4 main things are what Ark Invest do and what do they offer, how and when they pick their stocks, Ark Invest's overall strategy and target industries, and that is the most important facet of what they do, and that's what separates them. So stick around for that. That is super important. And lastly, we're going to look at their 5 active ETFs and what holdings are in those ETFs. So stick around because every single facet of what they do is unbelievable and it's groundbreaking and it is super exciting. And I was hooked from the second that I started researching them. All right, first up, what are Ark Invest? What do they do? And what do they offer? Ark Invest's mantra and what they dedicate most of their research to is disruptive innovation, which they define as the introduction of a technologically enabled new product or service that potentially changes the way the world works. Basically, they want to identify the new innovative platforms and fields that are going to literally change the world, and then they want to invest in the companies that are going to be the winners in those fields. Some serious go hard or go home stuff going on in Noah's Ark. Or should I say, Cathie's Ark. Boom! I'll take 2 of those and 2 of those. No, that's stupid. Now, something that is so exciting about Ark Invest is that they are not afraid to take risks. They base their entire strategy on finding new, innovative, disruptive companies that generally other people are afraid to invest in. But it's areas like that that offer the highest risk and highest reward, which is exactly what they're chasing. And so far, it must be said they are damn successful at it. And the reason this is so important to understand is that if you don't have the courage or the know-how, or even be able to identify these kind of companies and industries, you don't need to. You just have to trust in Ark Invest. And if you do, then you just leech off them, let them do all the heavy lifting, all the hard work, and you just invest in their ETFs. It's literally as simple as that. And that just means you can sit back and relax and enjoy a piece of the pie. And if Cathie Wood is offering pie, our stomachs should be a-rumbling. Currently, Ark Invest have 5 active ETFs and 2 index ETFs, and all of them have seen crazy gains that we're going to look at later in the video, but we're going to focus on the 5 active ETFs. So the 5 ETFs are Ark K Innovation, Ark Q Autonomous Technology and Robotics, Ark W Next Generation Internet, Ark G Genomic Revolution, and Ark F FinTech or Financial Tech Innovation. Now, when we hear the term ETF, most of us think about the overall stock market index, which is a very passive way of investing. However, Ark Invest's active ETFs are just that. They are actively managed. They don't just sit tight and follow an entire market index. Instead, they're investing all the time. They're changing their investments. They're adding, removing, trading positions, anything that best suits their goals. Hence, active. Now, whenever investing in an ETF, it's important to understand the expense ratio, which is pretty much the amount that companies will charge investors for managing their funds. And index funds, which are far more passive, require less management. So typically they charge somewhere as low as 0.03% and sometimes up to about 0.2%. And actively managed funds generally have expense ratios closer to 0.5 and 0.75%. And Ark Invest are coming in at 0.75%, which while it's on the slightly higher side of the scale, it makes sense because they do have a more costly process. They are constantly dedicating time and resources into researching the best suited companies and industries for their ETFs. That's a far more hands-on process, which justifies that price tag. And to give you an idea of how low it is, if you have $100,000 invested at 0.75%, That's only $750 a year. And believe me, if you stick around and see later how good each of these ETFs have been, you will understand that it is a totally justified price tag because they are blowing everyone out of the water, Free Willy style. All right, moving on. How and when do Ark pick their stocks? And to explain this to you, I bought a very important guest clip. Roll the tape. Here's Auntie Kathy.
Every cumulative doubling in units produced, costs decline at a consistent rate. So what we are looking for in terms of impact is figuring out, have costs associated with one of these platforms drop to a low enough level that they're going to unleash waves of demand and get us into that exponential growth curve.
So basically, Ark Invest are trying to invest in companies that are in the pocket or on the verge of producing far more units to meet their increasing demands, driving their costs down, which drive their selling price down too, which unleashes an enormous wave of demand. And the timing of this is so crucial, and that is why they are so expert in their field, because they really are on the ground floor and they're catching these companies early. Because if you think about it, if you wait until these companies start improving and start showing their success and their prosperity, you've already missed the juiciest part of the squeeze. That was a weird choice of phrase. And the craziest part is they believe there are 5 main innovation disruptive platforms that are ready to blow in the next 5 to 10 years. Which brings us to part number 3, which is their overall strategy, which is to leave a fat thumbs up on this video for me. I'm just kidding, that's not their real strategy, but it does help my channel incredibly. So if you're enjoying the video so far, and believe me, the rest of the video will be well worth your while, hook me up and try to get this video to 1,000 likes. I'd appreciate it so much. And by the way, recently this channel has started absolutely blowing up. We went from 300 to 1,000 subscribers in only a few weeks, and it is so flattering and so humbling, and I appreciate it so much, guys. So thank you so much. I'm really glad you're enjoying this stuff. It's amazing watching this channel grow, and I can't wait to see what we do with it. So keep it rolling. Come on, bring it in. Give creepy Uncle Dan a big smoochie. Okay, Ark's actual overall strategy is to pick the companies that they think are going to be the winners in the 5 disruptive, innovative fields that they think are going to change the world. And to explain those 5 disruptive innovation platforms to you, here's Auntie Kathy again, because she's way smarter than me and will explain it so much better. You're welcome.
So the 5 innovation platforms are DNA sequencing, that's foundational to find those mutations. Energy storage, so the shift from the internal combustion engine to electric vehicles. Robotics, especially with collaborative robots, which will be covered in sensors and able to work alongside human beings. Artificial intelligence, so every company, every industry, every sector is going to be transformed. And then blockchain technology is the fifth platform.
Now, if you're a simpleton like me, these platforms sound very complex. And the truth is, that's because they are. And that's why they're the leading edge and why so few companies are able to do it, and not only do it, but do it successfully. And that's crazy to think about, because generally one of the most important rules of investing is to understand what you're investing in. But in this instance, it's a little bit different. That's why it's so important to get a grasp of why Ark Invest understand them and why they are the leaders within this industry and within this process. And with that, it's time to get to the good stuff. What are the 5 ETFs? And how have they been performing? All right, so the first ETF is the Ark Innovation ETF, ticker ARKK, and it is the most broad one they offer. It encompasses a little bit of everything across all of the 5 platforms we've discussed. It's kind of like the mothership of all of the ETF options. The commander-in-chief, the Mac Daddy. All right, I'll stop. The prime mover. Okay, in Ark's own words, the ARKK ETF is focused on Ark's belief that innovation is key to growth. This is built on the cornerstone investments that present the best risk-reward opportunities for Ark's innovation-based themes. And as you can see here with how they've weighted the ARKK ETF portfolio, they've got 10% in e-commerce, 10% in gene therapy, 10% in molecular diagnostics, 9% in 3D printing, 8% in big data and machine learning, 5% in robotics. You get the gist. This is a very diversified portfolio within the innovation space. And here's a list of their holdings within the ARKK ETF, and I'll leave it here for a second, so pause it if you want to, review it, because if I went through all of them, we'd be here forever. Now, if you look down down here, you'll see that the performance of this ETF has been incredible since inception, and it's getting even stronger and stronger year on year. And this year alone, it's up more than 40% and more than 60% in just the last few months. And as you can see here, they are well ahead of the S&P 500 every step of the way, which has proven to be extremely hard to do consistently over the years. But it's clearly been no trouble for Ark Invest, which is part of what makes them so exciting. Not only is their concept and their approach super interesting and super exciting and refreshing, they're also getting unbelievable results. All right, next up is their Ark Q ETF. And you can see here that the main focus and the majority of the weight of this portfolio is on autonomous vehicles, robotics, and 3D printing. But they also explore energy storage and even space exploration. I told you they were exciting. And guys, space exploration is actually the next video I'm planning on doing. So if you're interested in that and want to see what that's all about, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because that's going to let you know when I drop that video, and it's going to be a good one. But I digress. Ark Invest are a big believer in autonomous vehicles, and they believe that they have already and will continue to disrupt the gas and diesel market for a very long time and forever. And as you can see, Tesla is their biggest holding at over 10%. And again, I'll leave this up for a second, so pause to look through it if you like. And right here, we can see that Ark Invest performance has been very, very solid at around a 40% growth in the last year, pumping the S&P 500 7% growth. As promised, big return. Next, we've got Ark W, which is focused on exposure to the next generation internet, including AI, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and blockchain technology. And again, we can see their biggest holding is Tesla at over 10%, with some very exciting companies filling out the top 10 and making up the 47% of the Ark W portfolio. And once again, and I probably don't need to keep saying this, but their gains have been incredible and have smashed the S&P 500. And again, here are their holdings. Next is Ark G, which I think is the most complex of all of the ETFs. Not the ETFs and the holdings, but the companies and what that industry is actually trying to achieve is very, very complex. But it's something Cathie Wood is extremely excited in, and if she's excited, then we should be excited. So Ark G focuses heavily on molecular diagnostics, DNA, and gene therapy, among other things, as you can see below. And as I just said, this is a really complex field, and there's only a tiny portion of the population that actually understands genetics, genetic mutations, gene therapy, and all of those sciences within the health fields. So being able to hitch a ride off Ark Invest's heavy research and serious dedication, that's very appealing when you're talking about these really complex industries. And just quickly before we move on to the last one, if you've seen any interviews with Cathie talking about this ETF, she is extremely excited about this field because she thinks that they're on the precipice of breaking through within the next few years, and that is super exciting. And quickly before we move on, because it's what we all want to see, look at the incredible growth. More than 55% growth in the last year compared to the S&P's growth of 7%. And again, here are their holdings. And then, as promised, the last one, Ark F, which is fintech or financial tech. And this is another area where Ark Invest are really excited, and Cathie's spoken about it many times because she believes we all have banking systems in our pockets, on our phones, and we're constantly on it. And we've only just scratched the surface. It's going to become commonplace, at least in Ark Invest's opinion. And as you can see, this ETF is no different. It's had a 40% increase in growth since inception and more than 30% this year alone, beating out the S&P 500's growth of -3%. Enough said, I would have thought. And again, here are their holdings. Now, Ark Invest is a very complex company, and they are investing in really, really volatile and really, really risky industries and platforms. So before you all run away and make rash decisions investing in Ark, be super careful. Do your own research, make sure those are risks that are worth taking for you, and just be super careful about the amount that you invest. I'm not a financial advisor. I'd never tell you what to do with your money, but I just want you to be careful because it is such a risky operation. And yes, they've had amazing success, and that might continue and probably will continue if you ask me, but that doesn't mean it's guaranteed, and like I said, it is risky. So please just be aware of that. Guys, thank you so much for joining me as always. I sincerely appreciate all the support and the incredible growth of this channel. I cannot wait to see what we can achieve. It's been incredibly exciting and incredibly humbling for me. So keep it up, keep joining the army, and I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm Dan, and you've been Dansplained. See ya!